Hello everyone, it's the DCEU podcast man again. In this podcast, I'm going to be talking about the latest DCEU movie, The Birds of Prey. I'll be giving some criticism and also I'll be discussing the movie as a whole. I'll start off by saying that it was a really good movie. Very surprising about how they managed to fit all the characters' backstories into a single movie. Kind of like the Guardians of the Galaxy, how they did that perfectly. But unlike Justice League or Suicide Squad, the Birds of Prey, he did a fantastic job with it. It fit perfectly with the storyline, and it had a good flow to it. It was almost like watching Deadpool and Pulp Fiction. My only criticisms towards it is that, one, I know that the DCEU is trying to break away from a interconnected universe, unlike their early films where it was obvious they were one big universe with cameos and foreshadowings and all. But one thing that I wish that the DCEU could have done with Birds of Prey is in the parts of the movie that took place in the police station, if they could have mentioned or at least had a cameo of Commissioner James Gordon, since he is a essential part in not just Batman but just Gotham as a whole. It maybe put in characters like Harvey Bullock from Batman the Animated Series, and maybe make some nods to the Batman, the cartoon, not the upcoming movie, with characters like Ethan Bennett or Angel Rojas or even Ellen Yin. Just, it's just a fun nod for past DC productions. But other than that, I really enjoyed the casting of the movie, and I also like how well it fit within the DCEU. But the major criticism I wanted to give, besides a lack of James Gordon, is also discussing about how it didn't, or how this to me was a little rushed about Harley Quinn Joker's breakup. I feel like the movie he could. I feel like the movie could have waited though. Like this is like a movie like this could have been in phase 2 or phase 3 of the DCEU. I feel like the Joker and Harley Quinn's relationship should have had a build up to their eventual break, or should have had a build up to their eventual breakup. And or kind of like with Iron Man and Pepper Potts in the MCU, they didn't like fall in love and get married right away. They let their relationship build in each installment before Iron Man finally popped the question in Spider-Man: Homecoming and got married in Endgame. I feel like that. I feel that in the part in Suicide Squad where it showed when Harley Quinn first met Joker, that should have been a post-credit scene in the first Batman movie of the DCEU. And then in the second one, show how their relationship progressed to the point where she fell into a batch of acid to become exactly like Joker. And then maybe in the third Batman movie, have the maybe in the third Batman movie, have them break up, and that's when we bring in the Birds of Prey story of Harley Quinn trying to get over her breakup with the Joker. I feel that the Birds of Prey could also have tried to focus more on the Gotham underworld. While it didn't do that with Black Mask and some aspects of the Joker, especially in Suicide Squad, but the movie didn't. Neither movies focus on the criminal underworld of Gotham as a whole. They all they did was just focus on like Black Mask's criminal empire and talk about like Joker's criminal empire. I feel as though the Birds of Prey could have made nods or references to the criminal empires to some of Gotham's other big name crime bosses, like say Two-Face, or maybe at least make a reference to Rupert Thorne from Batman the Animated Series, who was a major mob boss and crime lord. But other than that, everything about the movie was great, and I hope that the upcoming sequel or spin-offs will be just as great, if not better, like DC or like Marvel does, somehow they always outdo the previous installments. And also, even though it made references to Bruce Wayne, especially with Harley Quinn's hyena, I would also like it if they had mentioned like Batman, like maybe he confronted Black Mask before, or how his crusade has affected the criminal underworld in Gotham. Maybe even mention, or kind of like Shazam, how he'll make nods to the Justice League, like saying, maybe have one guy say like, now that Batman was part of the Justice League, he wasn't around Gotham as often, or maybe say about how small-time criminals can move a little bit more freely now that Batman is off saving the world and dealing with major supervillains. And like in my previous podcast when he talked about how they skipped over 20 years worth of Batman content, could have also made nods and references to some of Batman's other supervillains, like not just the crime lords, like say Mr. Freeze or Clayface, or maybe some of the villains that are going to be in the upcoming The Batman, like Catwoman or Penguin. Kind of like in Justice League when Bruce Wayne made that reference, or when Alfred made the reference to the Penguin. But other than that, I really enjoyed the movie and loved it, and I loved everything about it, and I highly recommend people to watch it. Well, one thing about the Birds of Prey that I'm very kind of disappointed about is how they did not mention or make reference to Oracle, aka Batgirl. I get that she is not in the universe yet, and they're going to give her own movie, but I still think it would have been cool if they had made some kind of Easter egg or reference to her. After all, in the comics, she was one of the founding members, albeit maybe the overall founder, but still. This has been the DCEU podcast, man. I hope you all enjoyed The Birds of Prey as much as I did. It was indeed a movie worth seeing, especially for all you DCEU fans. And I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Thank you, and please subscribe to my channel.